Welcome to the GreatBase Tennis Podcast. I'm Steve Smith along with
Andy Fitzell.
Andy Fitzell is visiting, the founder of the GreatBase Tennis Podcast.
Don't you forget it.
I'm not supposed to say the not so great tennis podcast. I'll never say that again.
The best.
Where's cold, windy day up here in the mountains?
A little bit.
Wintergreen, Virginia.
Little bit.
Little chilly. I grew up like 10 miles from Canada. I'm a wimp when it comes to cold weather. Total wimp.
Hey, I'm SoCal, but in Germany now. I'm used to it.
Well, I think it's appropriate that Andy's here because I was recently sent the last of the books. It's my second shipment from the Vic Braden Tennis Library. But we'll get into that. But first, let's dabble a little bit in the pro game. No, you've been around the pro tour. My tennis game, when they said tour, they meant sewer. With, how's it go?
It wasn't that bad. Come on.
I didn't play like Arthur Ashe. I played like Arthur Ashe's brother, Jack Ashe.
That's right.
Boris Becker? No, I played more like Doris Becker. Okay, so what do you think of Iga and the drug? Just leave it right there.
Iga and the drug. Yeah, I guess she's banned for a month.
Unintentional.
Of course. She would never do anything that would jeopardize or get even better.
As Gideon area. We'll talk about Gideon
Never.
briefly here. The pharmaceutical games.
Yeah. Banned for a month.
I hope not. I hope not.
Little slap on the wrist.
It would be terrible if all of a sudden it came out that one of these great champions was on the sauce and there was an asterisk by their name.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was interesting, the dates, like in Cincinnati, like July 12th. Then as far as she was allowed to play the US Open, now she's going to be allowed to play.
Preferential timing maybe there.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Business is business.
Anyway, the only reason I brought it up is unfortunately the juniors were talking about today.
Yeah.
And
it does happen in sport.
Yes.
And in tennis.
No, my late mother, one of her friends, her granddaughter, won the silver medal in the Olympics, equestrian event. And then later she got the gold because it was a German horse. The horse was on drugs.
Of course, the German horse.
Okay, so that's out of our realm, but it's on the news. We're a little bit late. By the time you hear this, it'll be old news. Yeah. But Sinner and Iga both number one right at the top. Have a slap on the wrist.
I told you my Iga story. Maybe this is the reason why she felt like she needed a little extra at Rome this year, the Masters. I was kind of just trotting down the stairs to the gym, and it was just me. And then I didn't know who it was, but I hear this.
How'd it go?
She came down behind me to the left, and so she passed me, and I thought, well, this isn't happening. So I started to race her, and then she stopped all of a sudden and just turned and looked at me, and I was like, wait, aren't we racing? And she just gave me another weird look and then went her way. Oh, I guess not. But I think maybe she was going, man, this gray-haired guy, this coach, was making me look bad on the stairs in Rome.
Distinguished look.
Hey, you never know.
So we're going to stay away from the half socks. We're not going to go back to Dave Anderson being half a coach.
No, but he did send me a picture today. He said, Happy Thanksgiving. Had the compression sock on there. I thought he was just smoothly shaven. But it was a compression sock, and then he had a long athletic sock. And he said, Happy Thanksgiving. He's like, looking good. Yeah.
I know with Uncle Vic, the great Uncle Vic, who spent some time with Bryan Brothers. Bob Bryan now is in the hot seat. What a great champion. Along with his brother. Amazing story. Krajicek and Rahm not chosen to play doubles. Instead, they go with Tommy Paul,
TP.
And Ben Shelton.
Yeah.
What are your comments? He could have been a hero if they won. He could be the GOAT. Well, you would think. I would think. The Bryan brothers, so many titles, serve and go into the net to go with. And even though Krajicek and Rahm, as of late, haven't been hot, come on, it wasn't too long ago they were in the Olympic final. Talk about pressure, and they dealt with that crowd beating Alcaraz and Nadal.
I left a note this morning for my horse. I make little the tennis intelligence every day, 3x5 cards. And the note today was a couple of reasons why you go to the net. You go to the net to make your target bigger, to give yourself a bigger target.
You have a horse?
Yeah. My player.
Oh, your player.
Yeah. My horse.
Okay. A lot of my players are donkeys. I understand. Yeah, you get the thoroughbred.
Yeah, well.
I said, you
play like Jack Ash.
I asked your player, I said, how tall are you? 6'3". Life's unfair. I would have died to be 6'3".
So you get to the net to have a bigger target and give your opponent a smaller target. So in answering your question, which team would I have gone with? Well, the team that could probably do a little bit better at the net and make that target smaller, I think a little more experienced volleyers, Rajiv and Austin, I would have gone with them. But I can understand the serve.
Shelton's bomb. With, Tommy Paul is a great athlete. Everyone talks about his athleticism. I've heard best tested athlete at the USTA.
USTA, yeah. Did that as well.
But it wasn't too long ago, Marty Fish, when he was captain, they didn't pick Rami. I believe he's one in the world. And they had Jack Sock, but they went with TFO, Paul, and Fritz.
Marty Fish, short socks.
But they're always, it's like, well, the other three play one up, one back, and Jack Sock plays any way he wants. It's an unorthodox style, aggressive, boom, boom, or boom. But convention says, and I guess just as Vic said to me one time, yeah, you will die by your principles. You got to serve and volley. Come on. We have 3 young girls from Canada, 12, 11. They hit the ball well. Come on, girls. Just don't play for the 2-inch trophy. Just serve and go to the net. Yeah. Learn to play the right way.
Yeah.
So you would have gone with the
doubles players? Yeah. Just get up there, squeeze the middle, and make those guys make a wall. Be a wall at the net. Give those guys a small target.
Episode 227. We have a list. Can you imagine reviewing all the podcasts we've had?
The naughty and nice list.
Now, hopefully, like all the books that we were sent, there's at least one gem in every podcast.
For sure.
Aren't you already saying we're supposed to give out value?
I think you could probably do some kind of AI thing. And whenever I'm speaking, you could listen. And whenever you're speaking, it just turns off.
That's good. I like it. I like it. The man who has a face for radio. I bought 22 books, and I'll just pick them random.
Can't lose with 22.
But the reason I came up with 22 is Vic's book here, his last book. And all the books we were sent, we have over 100 Braden books now that we could certainly give out as gifts.
Yeah.
I know they're collector's items. If I'm only 22, how come I'm 82? Vic used to say, I still feel like I'm 22.
Yeah, exactly.
You're in here a couple of times talking about you're in here with the Bryan Brothers. What was your experience like with the Bryan Brothers and Vic?
Well, speaking of the volley, we really, when we did the filming projects at Indian Wells, it was tough to get volleys at the net. And so we got in contact with Mike and Bob and said, hey, could we come in and do the 3D analysis with you guys, just spend a day and get everything in the net. And then we ended up getting, all their strokes. Gave Mike a few tips on his forehand. We even got the Bryan Brothers chest bump. Never digitized it, but we have it. And so, we spent a day with them out in Camarillo, Southern Cal. They were really good about just being there all day with us.
I've seen a lot of that film.
Yeah, and then...
the composite grip.
Yeah, exactly. Bob was like, show me what grip do you have on your volley? And he just reached out his hand and goes, this one, and he just held it and he just right on a composite. But when they talk about volleys, you'll hear them say Continental, which it's in the Continental family, but it's a composite grip.
Which means,
between level 2 and 3.
Used to be called the Australian grip.
Right.
Braden, there's no such thing as a perfect grip, just a grip with the least amount of adjustment. On page 112, 113, little blurb on Jeffy Lewis. He was just here.
Tennis Truth. You had a website back in the day called Tennis Truth. Vic says they're Tennis Truths.
Yeah, good. And then there's a picture of Andy Fitzell.
Yeah, Vic and I for a little while, we had a service called Vic Braden's Tennis Analysts, where we took people's videos and then did analysis. We had a website, but at that time, it was a little tougher for Vic to work off of Dartfish and the computer. And if I wasn't there with him, it was tough for him to do it all by himself. But Yeah, we had that service for a while, so that was a screenshot from that.
Little story on a little blurb on the program I ran for tennis teachers. There's a photo of a young Jennifer Roberts and a young Craig Tiley. I remember Vic, he probably did the same with you, is that he was sending me all sorts of photos, asking me, because he was writing the captions, who's this, who's that?
Yeah.
To get everything right.
Yeah.
But he did get it backwards where it was Tiley followed Roberts. Roberts was part of our tennis tech program, and then she went to Illinois where she had played previously.
Right.
And that's, Tiley took it from worst to first, or not worst, but obscurity. They were at the bottom of the barrel, and then they won the NCAs.
Right. Yeah, there's only 5,000 of these made. So.
Chevy Chase. I'm Chevy Chase, and you're not. I spent so much time coaching Chevy Chase at the Vic Braden Tennis College.
We had a project where we were interviewing successful people with a group of kids. We had these teenagers interview successful people and about how they became successful. So one day we were able to go to Chevy's house in LA with a couple kids and interview Chevy. He had a cat named Cheeseburger. But that was a fun day for me because Fletch, was one of my favorite movies of all time. And of course, Vacation, that whole series is great. So it was a treat for me.
I remember trying to spar verbally with Chevy. I found out that he's
good luck with that.
He's a heavyweight. He's a heavyweight. He filled out the application for the Vic Braden Tennis College. It was like, wife, none, N-U-N.
Yeah.
Every line, he was just a joke.
And
he did it just like that.
Yeah.
With,
one of the kids said, how do you, he's like, you come up, you're so humble. How do you stay so humble? And he's like, I'm an actor. He's like, I'm not humble. I act humble.
With, I share so many stories about Chevy Chase, but it's really an upscale place. Trabuco Canyon, Coto de Casa.
Yeah. Nice.
And
gated. You got to go.
But you had to, as a coach, when you had the orange break, orange slices, you'd lock because of the new tennis balls. And Vic, he was sponsored by Wilson. Every Monday, we just opened all these new tennis ball cans. And so Chevy, I remember it was my court. He leaves early, and I just left the keys right in the lock. So he leaves early. He locks us in.
Yeah.
He goes up on the deck, takes his shoes off, puts his legs up and feet up on the railing. He's just waving to us. He was a character. Yeah. But, at the Coto Research Center, the stairs going down to the courts, Chevy from Saturday Night Live, which he was only on 1 year. He was a writer first, and then he just took off. And career move, he should have stayed there longer. Yeah. So I said, hey, Chevy, let's see if fall down those stairs.
Yeah.
And he walked down. He walked back, big guy.
Yeah.
And he did. He rolled down. Quite a long.
Pratfalls. He knows. Yeah, he knew how to do it.
But what he did is you'd go to the side. So then Vic showed up just 2-3 minutes later. And I said, Vic, you should have seen it. And then senior moment. Vic says, let's film it. Let's do it again. Chevy goes, just once a day.
Yeah.
There's a photo in here of David Hartman, baseball player. He was a host of, it's probably before your time, Good Morning America.
I know the show, yeah.
My mother used to watch it all the time. So VIP, I was giving David, his wife, and his 2 little kids. They weren't going through the college because the kids were so young. So VIP, very important person. Mm. And I remember telling Vic at lunchtime, he said, hey, how's it going? He's a golfer. He's just doing it because his wife loves tennis. Yeah. Next thing you know, Vic, let's film. Getting aerials out. And I mean, this was like on a Saturday. Like by Monday morning of the next week, like right away, Vic didn't go, but Gideon flew into New York. They had a biomechanical screen sketch. I'll tell you when it was. Gerald Ford was president a few years ago. Mm-hmm. So it was Gerald Ford, Jack Nicklaus, and David Hartman on a biomechanical screen sketch, and Gideon with his computerized.
Yeah. Biomechanics.
That is this is why your golf ball goes so far.
Yeah.
Here's one I have to bring out. It's a new one.
Yeah, that was your birthday present.
Gift.
From me and Leo.
Your wife, Leo, your better half. Tell us about this book. I've read the Cultural Code and I've read the Talent Code, but what about this book?
Yeah, so similar to the Little Book of Talent, where it's kind of daily anecdotes. It's the same thing, but for culture. Daniel Coyle, I may have told this story one time on the podcast, but
we never repeat anything in this
no,
podcast.
never, ever, ever. It's all original content. But Daniel Coyle, at the time that book came out, the Talent Code, I was really into it. And then one day in the tennis college, a couple came in and I was talking about the book and they said, "Oh, we know Daniel Coyle. He's a friend of ours." And so I got to talk to him on the phone for about an hour. And he said he has very fond memories of his parents going to the Vic Braden Tennis College in Costa de Casa. So I thought it was pretty neat.
This is the newest book. I've told people that the junior tennis players, the Little Book of Talent should be in their shoulder bag. Just read it. Just read one a day.
Yeah.
There's 52, one for each week. But, but thank you. Feed to be 70.
Are you going to read it? My nose is running here.
Your nose is running? Am I going to read the book?
I got it. Yeah.
Usually that's what you do with a book. You read it.
Better. A plug for the Culture Code, but also the daily. What's it called? What's the title again? Bring that back up here.
The book.
The book. We'll give Mr. Coyle a plug.
People have been telling me that the 70s is a new 50.
The Culture Playbook by Daniel Coyle. There you go.
Yeah. I had it wrong. Make lots of mistakes.
No, you don't.
Andres Barbosa,
sometimes.
the fact checker.
Not very busy.
Cultural Playbook. 70, the new 50. You agree with that?
Yeah, at least 68.
Be nice, knock on wood, to go 10 more years and keep working on trying to improve tennis teaching.
Hey, Vic was there 87, 85, 85?
85.
85. I mean,
as Vic used to say, I said it to me all the time, is that we didn't have a plan. Between Jeff Lewis asked Vic, did you ever think about certifying pro? And he goes, I blew it. The USTA used to be the USLTA, was the United States Tennis Academy. But that would have been key.
Yeah, Vic just said, USTA, yeah, here you go. Maybe they should send Melody a check for at least $1 million.
They have spent a little money unwisely over the years. They're very much criticized for that, the USTA. There's a nice gesture. I think you were in on it. I was recommended to be in the International Tennis Hall of Fame. I'll get people to laugh. I mean, you can recommend anybody. But I would think 10 years from now, if we could really put some things together, is what we do. People laugh at that. It really should be in as a builder, the curriculum.
Sure.
With
system of systems. I mean, yeah, a body of work, information.
Like we just dropped off a boy who's been here for 3 months from Japan, document development, and he's got to stay the course. How's it go? The operation was a success, but the patient died.
Yeah, will the patient die?
Sent some text messages to his mother today. He's back, and routines need to become rules. But he flies out, and then a young girl from South Africa flies in, and she's done her homework. She's only played a couple of years. Now, I mean, she's, from a technical standpoint, it's like, okay, you're working a little bit too hard. You're turning your shoulders too much.
Yeah.
But no, tennis teaching today, you and I were looking across 3 courts, and they had all been converted to pickleball. And whoa, anything goes.
Yep.
Just get a fly swatter and swing at it.
Yeah. Dinkin' and donkin'.
Here's a plug. I put this in there. Journey to the Truth. Barry Hint. It's on our website.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we're going to take a moment and go to our sponsor. Oh, we don't have a sponsor. But Journey to the Truth. Basically, if people do their homework and they study our homework, they'll know that the GreatBase, solid fundamentals, it is thought-based instruction for long-term development. Again, these are just 22 random books. With Chris Bauer, what do you think of Fantastic Federer? What comes to your mind when you think of the Fed?
Well, we described his game today as elegant, something that Vic would have said, Vic Braden. We described him as elegant. He looked elegant, fluid, effortless.
This is the quote, and this is pretty much paraphrasing, but I like to say almost verbatim. Roger's mother, Lynette, when he was 8 years old, his lessons were 1 hour long. He stood in one place the entire lesson with long follow-throughs, the on balance.
Yeah.
Lynette Federer, rule is never let the ball bounce twice. This girl is here today, Afrikaner. Yvonne picked this gal up at the airport. Said, I know 3 things about South Africa. Big waves. He's in the background. What are they? Big waves? Sharks.
Sharks.
Big wave sharks and strict parent.
I'm not going.
Strict parents. The young guy that was an intern for us, he's on Craig Lesore.
Yeah. Online tennis instruction now?
Tennis instruction. His sister married a guy, and they take people out on tours to look for sharks. And they actually, get in the water.
As long as you have a cage.
Yeah, but I'm talking about this.
Okay.
The photographer, there's no cage, but there's, the decoy, the fake seal. And then just like, I think I'm going to skip out on
I would have that safe word, spumoni. Spumoni.
With the Fed, though, I think a group of coaches should be able to get along or have a sit-down session. Another senior moment. A group of coaches should get along. But if they just sat down and said, okay, tell me something about the Fed.
Yeah.
Just go around the room.
Yeah. That'd be a fun discussion.
And just Roger Federer quotes. I love the one, I didn't know you're supposed to win in practice.
Yeah.
But the Fed, that made you famous, or did you make him famous? I think you made him famous. You're in that commercial with him?
You had to bring it up, didn't you?
The pick-me-up trucks?
Pick 'em up truck. Yep.
The Fed.
Got to play with the Fed a little bit.
With, be interesting when the Fed has an autobiography. That should be coming out. I would think. I haven't heard anything about it, but I have some other books on Fed. But, we'll probably up to 1,500 books. A library.
Yeah, we were trying to do the math a little bit.
Now, here's something that you recently took your horse to John's son, Jeremy.
Jeremy, yeah, I had him do an assessment.
The title of his book, they changed it. It used to be Choose Your Best Sport. Correct me if I'm wrong. And they changed it to Your Key to Sports Success.
Yeah, choose your best sport.
But they changed it because it was a little bit discouraging, is that people were reading it. They'd already chosen their sport. They found out they picked the wrong one.
Yeah, they're kind of like, this is not what I'm wired for. It's not to put anybody in a hole, but yeah, I mean, it was like, if you have this brain type and this is the way your body's going to be wired, genetically wired, you could be really successful in this sport, or not this sport, or not any sport.
With Joel Trucker, his article with Vic, they were diligently on that. It was on the cover of Tennis Magazine. It's on our website.
Yeah.
So what did Jeremy say about your horse? You took your horse to see him?
Well, we did an online assessment, but through video. So video and testing. Yeah, fine motor skilled, extroverted. And judger, but
ESTJ, right?
ESTJ, but they use a different set of acronyms now, where they're front brain, and they do it a little bit differently, but
had to mess it up. It was so simple.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said, I had to mess it up. Now I got to go through this. But yeah, I don't own the new acronyms well enough. But yeah, a lot of good advice, solid advice for Zach, and that's the name of my horse, Zach.
I would say 25 years, Vic, in that heavy shoulder bag. It wasn't the bag that was.
I carried that heavy shoulder bag. Yeah.
Actually, Mike McLaughlin was here. He did a podcast with Mike Valentine, and he was telling us he had the old camera here, put it right on the table.
Yeah.
This is why the shoulder bag was so heavy.
Yeah.
And Vic took that thing everywhere he went.
Yeah.
But I mean, he traveled with this. This was just, he was just fascinated. And Vic was so inquisitive, he would go from one thing to the next. But I've had a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists I've met through coaching their children, and several of them said it was the best thing they did.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not scientifically validated. It doesn't put you in a box, but it's a great tool to just understand yourself better.
Yeah. And if you get really good at it, to manipulating people. Nah, just kidding. You'd never do that.
Well, let's go through that. That's where the kids become master manipulators because it's the Myers-Briggs started in the 50s, mother and daughter, and it's used in marriage counseling. And opposites attract, and then the kid finds that out, and they work one against the other.
Yeah.
I knew at one point, I used to always ask my father, "Go sleep outside?" We used to just be like cowboys.
Yeah.
This kid, Mark Costello, we just sleep bag, just go sleep on the ground.
Yeah. And
I don't think people are doing that anymore.
Yeah.
But then the mom would say, "Where are you going to be? Who are you going to be with?" So I do kids figure out who to ask.
Kids do that nowadays. People call the police because they go, "Where's your parents?" They call protective services.
Tell us about John or Jeremy's website.
Jeremy's website. Oh, I got to get the name of it.
Braintypes.com?
Well, there's braintypes.com. But Jeremy also has his own website. I'll look it up here, but in the meantime, tell us about Grips.
Grips, Monica Seles. I don't have her book here, but the title of her book is Get a Grip. Braden, no such thing as a perfect grip, just a grip with the least amount of adjustment. Children, they're at the mercy of their impulses and become slaves to their habits. The grip determines the angle of the racket face. The angle of the racket face determines the angle of the racket path. Grips.
BeyondPersonality.com. Check that out. BeyondPersonality.com.
And one last thing on grips. You should be able to tell the grip from one baseline to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Kids play matches. They have no idea.
Yeah. They have no idea. Sometimes their opponent's left-handed or right-handed.
Yes. So
yeah, BeyondPersonality.com. Check it out.
Great tool.
Great tool. And Jeremy, those guys are class act family. They do a lot of work, with the NFL and baseball, and they're big time.
Going back to reviewing all these podcasts, we had one or two where all we did is talk about brain typing.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to another book. We didn't do this. We should have. When Nick Bollettieri passed away, we could always go back and dedicate a podcast to the late Nick Bollettieri.
Yeah.
So many books on Bollettieri. Confidence. The guy was married 8 times to 7 women.
Show that book real quick.
He convinced one woman to marry him twice.
Pretty neat. We show these books.
Back in the day of Alessi.
Yeah.
Toughest playground in tennis. Now, it has fluctuated over the years. I remember it was down, was enrollment, but then Sharapova at 17 won Wimbledon. That type of thing, the enrollment went way back up. On the cover, Nick Bollettieri himself, Jenny Purdy, Beth Herr, Rafael Reggi, Pam Cassell, Michelle Torres, Vince Van Patten, Jimmy Arias, Tim Mayotte, Marianne Waddell, Eric Carita, Lisa Bonder, Fritz Buning, Terry Phelps, Aaron Krickstein. Pick out one. Tell us one story about any of those.
Ooh.
I'll tell you what.
Gosh, I think about Aaron Krickstein, the poor guy. Every time there was a rain delay at the U.S. Open, they would show his match against Connors. He had to relive that for 20 years.
University Liggett High School, 1985. I was with the U.S. Davis Cup team in Hamburg, Germany, and Herb Krickstein was doing all the talking, all the rain delays, all the rain delays. With I could tell stories about just about everybody on this list.
Back and low on his groundies, but solid.
How about Vince Van Patten? You took some acting classes. What do you know about Vince Van Patten?
Yeah, actor. That's what I know.
There used to be a TV show called Apple's Way.
Great tennis player.
On every Sunday. When he was 16, he was in the top 10, Southern Cal. And between the age of 16 and 21, he wasn't playing much tennis because he was on his hit series. But he came back in 1984. That's when McEnroe had such a hot year. One of McEnroe's losses was to Vince Van Patten. But he came back. He was a top 50 player in the world.
That's awesome.
And remember Tony Trabert saying, no stage fright. The late Tony Trabert was on TV all the time as a commentator, world-class player, top 10 player.
Yeah.
I'm number 1, I should say, at one point. But Vince Van Patten, you can go just plug in Kathy Rinaldi, Vince Van Patten, Jimmy Connors, and Chris Everett.
Yeah.
Playing
It's on
books
YouTube,
doubles
right?
on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's way better doubles. I mean, it's real doubles.
Because they get to the net,
Yeah, the gals are serving going forward and
returning and going.
with
Pressure.
Fritz Buning, Eric Carita, some big servers. One thing is that one of the reasons that there were so many players at Bollettieri's is Mark McCormick, who didn't really want to get into real estate. The late Mark McCormick, who was the first sports agent, and Arnold Palmer was his first client. With IMG, International Management Group, they would, okay, we have sunshine, we have courts, we have room and board, accommodations, meals. So someone like a Tim Mayotte. Jimmy Arias, who's that here? They're running it now. Here's my favorite Nick Bollettieri story. So back in the day when women would wear their hair like a beehive, just would be way up. So he's at a club. For the longest time, Nick was not part of junior tennis. He was in San Juan, Puerto Rico for a long time. So woman's just giving him a hard time. And she goes on the clay courts and he locks the gate. He locks the gate, goes in, and he tells the guy, turn the sprinklers on. And the sprinklers are going and going. And the woman's hair just the makeup. Back in the 70s, people would play with makeup. Women. And he went up and just graciously, what a salesman. To convince 7 women to marry you. And he said, I'm sorry. He can't find the key to the padlock or the combination of the padlock. Whoever is here is supposed to help us with it. Just bear with us. And, they're just getting soaking wet. And then he goes back in the pro shop window. He's just watching it. It's like, don't give me a hard time.
Yeah.
But he did need to have Mark McCormick because he would see anybody play who was really good and go, hey, no charge.
Yeah.
And of course now it's more than just tennis. IMG, what a huge facility for athletes.
Yep. No, amazing personality. Salesman, motivator.
Speaking about Nick and Nick Bollettieri and Vic Braden is, but people knew, like Nick Bollettieri knew that Vic Braden was just at a different level when it came down to really nuts and bolts.
What was that quote where he said, Vic forgot last week more than I'll know about tennis, but I can sell it.
Yeah.
You get that
confident though. I remember him saying, I went right up to late Tommy Fye. I was at the Roseville, the tennis teacher conference. He kept raising his hand. And what about this angle and that angle? And Bollettieri, he's heard all these people. He said, I flunked high school geometry 3 times. I don't know angles, but God gave me eyes to see tennis. When this is something listeners should do is go to YouTube, look up Nick Bollettieri, International Tennis Hall of Fame, his speech, and he goes through 10 lives. No, it's 9 lives, 10 number ones, 9 lives. He keeps going down 8 wives. I don't have all 10 by memory, but he gets down to 0. Yeah. He goes, number of books I've read.
That's awesome.
I
don't know if that's awesome, but it's funny.
No, it's honesty.
Yeah.
Honesty.
Yep.
But he was Osler. Yeah. But, the thing, like Carleen Bassett, who I spent a lot of time with years ago, top 10 player from Canada, said Nick is the best junior coach in the world and the worst pro coach in the world. One of the reasons that he could be so tough on those kids is they were all on scholarship.
Right.
They were just like, my parents couldn't afford to, have me here. And they're just,
right.
He got into the Hall of Fame, Braden and Vandermeer, for example. I think of Mr. Hopman. Those are 3 of our 8 pillars in the Hall of Fame. But Braden and Vandermeer got in on education. Bollettieri, rightfully so, he's placed in the Hall of Fame based on the environment that he created.
I went to Nick's for one day We took a trip to Bradenton.
You didn't recognize your talent?
He did not recognize my talent. No, I actually had a mullet at the time.
You had to see.
Yeah, I had the business in front, party in back.
Was that before Andre or after?
No, it was right at that time. And, you know, I had the denim shorts, and they came with like a pair of like spandex shorts, like with it.
Yeah.
And the spandex shorts were baggy. You know, I couldn't fill them out. But anyway, I went for one day, and I was really pumped up for tennis, really, really into it. But I talked to a couple other kids there, and you know, they were more kind of like kids that their family just dropped them off, and they were like, "Yeah, it's great. Some days you don't have to play, and you can just go to the pool, and whatever." And I was kind of like, "Huh? What do you mean you don't want to play?" So it wasn't quite the place for me.
Those blue jean shorts, this is a fact. Way back when I was sponsored by Nike. I remember one time I turned that down because I talked to Vandermeer. He was big with Adidas and had all these young people helping me with this educational program. And we all ended up getting so little from Adidas, but we switched from Nike to Adidas. But actually, when those shorts came out, they were for McEnroe. McEnroe said, "I'm not going to wear those." And young Agassi said, "I'll wear those." They were so popular.
Yeah, they were so popular. Johnny Mac did wear them a little bit, but he probably didn't for very long.
But they were made for him.
Yeah.
So you didn't fill out the shorts. That reminds me of an eternal scar.
Skipping leg day.
All junior tennis players, eternal scar. So this happened to me not quite 60 years ago, but Richie Morse didn't like hockey players. He was a wrestling coach. "Hey, Smith," jogging around P class, "you got two strings hanging from your shorts." Yeah, you say without laughing. So, I'm nervous. He's yelling at me. He yells out a second time. I stop and I look, and he goes, "I'm sorry, those are your legs." Richie Morse.
That's a good one. I'm going to write that down.
Here we go. Ken Rosewall, 20 years at the top. 1954, he's in the Wimbledon final. 1974, he's in the Wimbledon final. One thing, your friend, our podcast friend, Joel Trucker, he was a guest. What a tennis mind.
Yeah.
When he talks about Vic, Vic spent so much time working with Kramer and helping run the tour.
Mm-hmm.
With Rosewall, a story I'd like to tell that one of our students, he hired us to, when he came out off the tour, Steve Denton, who now has been at A&M for a long time. He's playing with Kevin Kerr, and they're the hotshot college kids coming out, and he goes across, ball's a little above the level of the net. He just he's going to tag Rosewall. The ball comes right back and hits him in the chest.
Boom, boom.
Tell us about the angle of the racket face on the famous Rosewall slice.
Yeah, about 5 to 7 degrees open. Barely any revolutions. So he had this, he had a layback, but then he had really great timing with his volley. So his volley was one of the best. He laid the racket back, but then he got the racket vertical. He had great timing. Yeah, it was pretty darn flat, actually. His great underspin was really just a flat ball.
The famous Gonzalez would say about Rosewall is when we say slice backhand, he goes, "What slice backhand?" He hits it flat as a pancake.
Yeah.
We do talk about the dumb Aussie, Dave Squire. I know he spent a lot of time with his son, Henry. I remember meeting Henry. They brought him over here when he was 6 and then 7. I said, "Squire, I'm going to steal that from you. Float slice and drive slice."
Yeah.
Most people, they hit float slice. We're telling some juniors today, like Agassi. It's so much better if you hit underspin. We like to say underspin instead of slice.
Yeah.
People think of chipping chop. It's so much better if you hit it on your terms. Most of the time, people are hitting in desperation.
Yeah. You want to be able to float slice at times, but if somebody's well coached, they're going to be coming in, taking it out of the air.
But this is, Davis Cup matches, and it's amazing. I love the concept of storytelling, and that comes from Lair. Advice for good club players from Ken Rosewall. There's definitely pearls. It's amazing when you think about all the effort that's gone into trying to help people play the game better.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, well, back to this. Gideon is a guest on our podcast. Israeli. An Olympian. 1972.
Yeah.
Munich. He was there.
Yeah.
With terrible what happened. Terrorism.
Friends and teammates all got killed.
The Gideon Errol, his magic machine. Tell us about his magic machines. It's more than one.
Yeah, I mean, weight training devices that can really tell you where you're weak and not, and all computerized. And then the APAS system, which is Aerial Performance Analysis System, is the one I learned to use to manually digitize. And what he used, there with Vic, the APAS system. But yeah, that whole research center down there with the force plates and everything. And then he could, with his accent, he has a great accent.
And the way I remember being a hitter for Tim Gullickson, and Vic and Gideon were working with Tim Gullickson, the late Tim Gullickson. And I didn't have a speaking part, but we're having breakfast, training, lunch, dinner. Kelly wouldn't be there for that long, 4 or 5 days. And Gideon Errol said, well, I'm more interested in building a machine to beat Borg than to beat you. Yeah. Because I know if I beat a machine to beat Borg, the machine will beat you.
No, his house in Koto, he has 2 houses in Koto de Casa, where the original tennis college was. And they're back to back. Well, one's his office. And in that office, in that house, he has on display, it's like the first air shoe, where it's literally, you see this little air valve where you could pump it up, And so he had all these great inventions.
Way ahead of his time.
Yeah, way ahead of his time.
And like Vic, I mean, they're both, Vic has passed, but they still would keep Gideon is still ahead of his time.
He does a lot with astronomy. On his Facebook page, he's always posting these incredible pictures of the cosmos, actually, that he has all these telescopes, that he does. Pretty neat.
But it's amazing. If you go back and listen to our podcast on Gideon, he really helped Vic. Vic helped him. Anything that can be measured can be improved.
Right.
And with that, certainly there was several magazines, but this is Frank DeFord, famous writer. This had a major impact on my life. May 10th, 1976. Back in that time, it was a little before that, not 74 or 75. The U.S. Open was on clay, American Hard Truth, 75, 76, 77. So it went from grass to clay to hard court. And that's where Jimmy Connors won the U.S. Open on 3 different surfaces.
All 3, yeah.
But this is in 1976.
It's a good year.
Year you were born.
One of the best. Oh, yeah, that's right.
You in America, right? 1776.
Yeah, bicentennial, baby.
He is utterly determined to revolutionize the game of tennis. And given the resources, he has been broke all of his life. He thinks this could be easily accomplished. He says, tennis is in the Stone Age. I think it still is. If we had the proper biomechanical teaching devices right now, he says, and I don't mean anything extraordinary, all they would really require would be some study and some money. Then you could give me 8 good athletes, age 13. I don't mean great athletes, just the equivalent to what's around now in tennis. And 5 years from now, when those kids are 18, I'll have all 8 in the quarterfinals at Wimbledon. With
confident,
but when you stop and think about it,
I believe it.
Roger Federer, it's frightening how low the level of play is at Wimbledon. I know that less than 2% of the time, my opponents are coming in behind their serve.
Yeah.
And if you were the complete player, you would serve. We're talking about podcasts last week. John Isner would be able to come in behind his serve. You think of Del Potro. When he was young, he was not that acrobatic at the net. So because when he was coming up, he didn't go forward.
No.
Kevin Anderson, a young girl from South Africa here today. I mean, you got the Wimbledon final, US Open final. I know you can always take a gem. I was told he hit 100 serves a day. I can remember seeing him at a couple of different places, Bollettieri being one of them. And, but when he was really young, he didn't go forward.
Yeah.
And again, Joel Trucker, all these comments on our podcast said, if a kid starts going to the net at age 15, it's like they're learning a third language.
Yeah.
and they haven't learned the second language. With this is a great one to just pull out. This is a gentleman that passed away, Bud Collins. He definitely was a historian.
Yeah.
I like to think of myself now, 50 years in this, as an amateur historian.
So you show that? I've got a little different cover on the one I have, but Encyclopedia of Tennis.
With
a lot of history.
So many books came out with Collins. But yeah, the Einstein, if you don't know the history of your subject, you don't know your subject. Just to see this picture of Pete and how Robert Lansdorf said, wow, he's doing something really strange at the top, and I didn't change that.
Yeah.
But just that
good thing.
hyperpronation.
Yeah. Loose.
With Bud Collins, this will be on the quiz. The Hawaiian grip, the humor, the Western grip, which originated in California. But the kid is past the fifth panel. They're so far over. It's not the California grip.
For by their ear.
In California, Hawaii's way out there.
I like the one with the, there's two types of players.
Yeah, those who play Wimbledon and those who don't.
Yeah, it's a great line.
Yeah, when Bud was on TV, I loved it when he was in the booth. Donald Dell. Christina Dell was up here with her two boys. Mutt and Jeff, they were just so much the opposite. But I loved it when he was in the booth and just throwing out the history.
Yeah. And a snazzy dresser as well.
Yeah. No, it was the original. Haywood Hale Bruin. It was a little bit before where he wore he got people's attention, the bow tie.
Yeah.
But he really knew tennis. And, he used to self-deprecate and make fun of his game, but he actually won his national mixed doubles title.
Yeah.
It was a set 1978, Stowe, Vermont. My job was to go get his typewriter. And when I delivered it, he was playing tennis barefoot. But he used to call the people listening at home, us fellow hackers.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't like that.
Yeah.
With Here's another. There's so many of these. Bobby Riggs. Just like we're talking about having quotes from Roger Federer, Bobby Riggs about being a competitor. Anything come to your mind? It's really sad. The place in San Diego, I understand that, the Bobby Riggs Tennis Center. That's what I actually was there with Rick Schroeder, who I was a staff member at the Vic Braden Tennis College. Ted Schroeder won Wimbledon. So we're hanging out, and Rick was doing some teaching at this place in San Diego. So Bobby Riggs just played cards the whole time. So it just would be around Bobby Riggs. Now I understand all the courts, and this is where the Bobby Riggs Tennis Museum is, but all the courts have been converted to pickleball. So I have been told.
Ooh, that hurts. I always think of the story. I don't remember the details quite so much, but he, notorious. He liked to gamble and hustle people, and
is this one with Bob Cousy?
Yeah, is that the basketball on the stairs?
Yeah.
Yeah, so why don't you tell? But I love that one where he's practicing dribbling a basketball up and down these stairs and then challenges Bob Cousy to a race doing that.
Bob Cousy, one of the best basketball players of all time. And Bobby Riggs was a hustler. He's just saying, I want to bet you. I want to bet you. I can dribble up and down these, fancy, windy, like out of a movie, stairs at a hotel, upscale. So finally, after several days of doing this and that and playing golf, and there was a purpose to the whole function, all these athletes getting together. And then Cousy goes, okay, I'll take the bet. And
I'm sure it wasn't small either.
And Bobby Riggs beats him. And so when Cousy's checking out of the hotel, he goes, you lost that bet? You win that bet? The doorman, the bellman asked him. He goes, I lost. He goes, that guy all week was here the week before you got here. Every day he was practicing that.
Yeah.
He was the kind of guy who would bet on 2 robins on a telephone pole. But there's a book called There'll Never Be Another. And it's like 450 pages, just pure Riggs.
Obviously the Billie Jean King, that historic match.
In the end, people say, well, did he throw the match? But what happened was he was exhausted. he was such a hustler. He was just exhausted. There was so much PR. He couldn't turn down one deal. He again, exhausted. So insiders, Russell Seymour, his partner, drawing a blank right now. I met the man who was in the chair. I got to know him. He played doubles with Russell Seymour. Senior moment will come to me. Dennis Vandermeer was coaching Billie Jean King.
Yeah, right.
In the movie, they didn't get that right. They had Billie's husband, Larry, was on the bench. But, yeah, he was just exhausted. And Billie was taught forward, go forward, go forward. And she didn't allow him to play junk at all.
Yeah, I mean, I would never want to take anything away. I mean, I think some things may have been said on his deathbed.
Well, actually, Braden.
I'm not going to say what, but just may
Braden
have been said something.
Braden, it's amazing what's in his library. Tennis Channel has it. So, Bobby Riggs is in his deathbed, and the two Ponchos are in the room, and Kramer, and it was a group of famous people.
Yeah.
And, Bobby couldn't even, basically sit up in bed. And then something was said, and there was a adrenaline rush where he just, it's like he almost stood up. And Vicky's always telling a story about how competitive they were.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just so many things. What we should do with our network is, we could send these to, say, someone who's really interested, and they could read, like, say, Tennis is My Racket, Bobby Riggs, and just to say, okay, just pick out 10 gems.
Yeah.
Or 10 quotes, because it's, like, say, at Jimmy Connors, when Jimmy Connors tells people the greatest thing in life is to play tennis and win, the second greatest thing in life is to play tennis and lose. My opinion would be that comes from Riggs. Because when, he's from Belleville, Illinois, when he went out, he was basically coached by Pancho Seguro, but he was hanging out.
Those guys.
He's hanging out with those guys. What an education. I remember being a tennis bum in Boca at 20, and I'm hanging out with Wayne Saban, who's top 10 player in the world. He's 70, I'm 20, and it's like so much learning. That doesn't take place now. I think that it used to be, and I think that's a very, very good thing when you say you go to a pub in London. It used to be that way, a pub in Ireland. That you go to a pub and there's 3 generations. The Canadian kids that live so close to the U.S. border. Typically, Canadian kids are around their grandparents a lot more than an American kid.
Yeah. The clip, there's a clip of Bobby on Tennis Intelligence Applied, the one about competition, and the intensity of that.
You gotta win, right?
Yeah, that one. You gotta be that. I don't know it verbatim, but it's a great clip. You guys got to check it out on Tennis Intelligence Applied. Just type in Bobby Riggs. Yeah,
Bobby's the same age as Welby Van Horn, and Welby became a really good golfer. Welby would go anywhere, and there was a putt. He would stay there all day till he broke the record. I've been around a lot of top 10 players, but I always mentioned Carling Bassett, Wayne Saban, and Welby Van Horn. Just get to know those 3 well, be around them. Talk about intensity, like competitive.
Yeah.
So Welby was one of the best amateur golfers, but he would not play Bobby Riggs because he said Bobby Riggs would just find a way to, the odds and, well, I'll tell you what, your handicap, my handicap, and he'd have it all worked out. And
yeah. Yeah. I was going to try to find that clip, but it might take a little more digging.
Mercer Beasley. I've always heard that name. So I read a few things about Mercer before coming on here. And I'm just a highly respected tennis teacher. And
see the cover?
Yeah. The oldest book we have is 1904 in our library.
In collaboration with Milton Holmes, How to Play Tennis.
Yeah. You just couldn't randomly open these to a page.
What can you tell us about Mercer?
We wasn't a great player. Ready, racket back, footwork, actual hit, and ending. Just how you say
actual hit. Yeah, I like that actually a lot.
The honesty.
No pun intended.
This is relatively simple.
Actual hit.
With it is a bonus. Like, Welby arguably is in the history of tennis. In the history of tennis, is the best player who became a very accomplished teacher. But I use the word teacher.
Yeah.
When we see the celebrity coaches on TV, they're not teachers. They're not teachers of tennis. No, they're helping out as a confidant and a mentor. But Joe Public, that with the Aussie who he coached Leighton Hewitt, Darren Cahill,
yeah,
and then he coached Agassi. Did some work with Halep. Now he's in the corner with Center.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between teaching and coaching. To us, teaching is information transfer. And saw that spoof on Patrick Monteagulo. How's it go? Is that does an amazing job, takes a player who's 4 in the world. Next thing you know, they're 9 in the world.
Yeah.
This spoof
Player. Yeah.
with
Yeah, all those players are they've rounded third and they're about to slide into home plate.
but it's like Ed Faulkner, who was probably the best known tennis teacher in the 60s. I've certainly met relatives, met people close to Ed. Know that, for example, he went to Cornell and he just took classes where he wasn't interested in getting a degree, just so he could become a better tennis teacher.
Yeah.
To me, Ed Faulkner's book is the only one. I didn't bring that.
I just got his book. Yeah.
It's the only book that, like, say, for example, a lot of club players will lead with their elbow because the grip's too far over. And there's some players, I think,
on the backhand side or something.
Yeah. One-handed, like a Justine Hen and Elliot Telscher.
Yeah.
They throw their hips back and they still play from the upper
Make the
arm.
racket go fast.
Upper arm, play from the shoulder. But a lot of people say, you're leading with your elbow. But diagnostically, the flaw, the cause, and the cure is they don't really know the flaw. Yeah. They can't go to the primary flaw. The art is where you start.
Right.
There's so many books that we have. This is just has better tennis with the world's best players. And the forward is by Jack Kramer. We have several books that are written by Jack Kramer. And it is just amazing that here's something, the impact position. Just how they would say content.
Yeah, that's great. Impact.
Talks about self-doubt. It's all in here. But with Kramer, I always think of the story where Kramer, he shows up at the Kramer Club, and every kid is playing with a Kramer racket. And they're all like, this is Jack Kramer.
Yeah.
And he watches for 5 minutes, calls everybody in, and he goes, just like I told those kids today, you can't even rally. I'm yelling out today, you can't rally, you can't play. And that's where I know Craig O'Shaughnessy, he certainly, hats off to Craig O'Shaughnessy. He's been on TV and making an impact on talking about stats. And that first 4 shots, well, the kids that are 11, 12 years old don't need to hear that. And that's one of the problems that we just have see people taking major cuts, is this one ball blast. They toss the ball, they watch the ball over their head. Their serve's got nothing on it. And then next thing you know, they're just flailing away with a Western grip, body going every which way. And
the points are ending 70% with an error. So, the first 4 shots people are missing. So, hey, just like we were talking about Rafa today being a quote unquote pusher, it's like learn to keep the ball in play.
The term pusher, I ask kids all the time when they miss their forehand, were you early or late? They'll go late. No, you were early. It's all turn the doorknob, the wrist, not playing from the upper arm, not having a tracking motion.
Yeah, they hit
I saw this on
the net post to the left, and they're going, I was late.
What's it called? Zoo Tennis. No, that's Colette Lewis. Does a great job reporting on tennis. Fuzzy yellow balls.
Right.
And it's like, well, this is the old school forehand. And now you have to put the racket in your pocket. It's just like, no, we're going to teach what's happening at that impact point. And, the umpire says ready, play. And, the people that are just, we did a little spoof on a post, an Instagram post based on Joe Rogan. The guy whose podcast is a little smaller than ours, but he's trying.
Yeah, he's trying.
So Joe Rogan says, can these people really do what they say? All these people on the internet say, this is how you do it. This is how you do it, whatever it is. Can they actually do it? Yeah. And so I just said that.
Are you living it? You give all this, lip service, and are you actually doing the things that you're telling?
Yeah, there's 1 minute post. So then we show these 2 young kids from Canada, 11-year-old, 12-year-olds, just hitting some ground strokes. We got a lot of feedback on that. Anyway, they have a pretty solid base.
Yep.
With here's somebody who approaches mental toughness in a different way. Alan Fox. I used to write on the board, training tennis coaches in a formal setting. Be good. Are you good at what you do? Mm. So I think of someone like a Julie Anthony, and there's others. Somebody's a top 10 player in the world, and they have a PhD. They have so much fertilizer, it's piled higher and deeper than everybody else's. But then are they good? Are they competent? And Alan Fox, with there's 2 stray dogs, and there's 1 piece of scrap meat in the street. Who's going to get it? That's where the hungry dog hunts best. Hungry dog hunts best. Sometimes people will change the title of a book. I have a book by Hopman, and they just changed the title.
Right.
I can't remember the first title of it. I have both, and the second was Lobbying in the Sun.
Lobbying in the Sun, yeah.
And we'll just repackage it, give it a different cover, and sell it a different way.
Yeah.
But with Alan Fox, on the mental side of it, maintaining mental effectiveness in the heat of the battle, the golden rule, follow the golden rule. Never do anything on the court that doesn't help you win.
That's good.
There's so many things.
I don't know what's written in there, but there's a note to Vic in there from Alan.
Yeah. I can read that. There's a couple notes. There's 2. Yeah, that's one thing about these books that were given to us. The last shipment, Melody hung on there. Vic's widow hung on to those. Yeah. But with my train of thought, what was I saying before you rudely interrupted me? You can't do that to a 70-year-old.
I'm sorry. I'm writing
short-term memory. So. My dear friend Vic, the best human being in the game of tennis. Thank you so much for many kindnesses to me over the years. Alan Fox. Alan Fox, American, he played Davis Cup for Israel, but then he ended up big buddy of Arthur Ashe's.
Played at Pepperdine, I believe.
Yeah, and he coached at Pepperdine. Thank you so much for sending me a copy of your new book. It was very interesting, and I learned a lot that I didn't know before. What a life you've had. And the book was fun to read. This is the pictorial, the one, if I'm 22, why am I 82?
Yeah.
And then it's a little bit about his health. I look forward to seeing it in Indian Wells.
Yeah. That's the first time I met him was at Indian Wells.
Coming back to my train of thought, which is very simple. Play shots that you own. Play within yourself.
Yeah.
You can go up to a young kid and go, "Are you playing Serena today?" These 3 girls from Canada that are here, they're very good 12 and under players. And I say this all the time. Little kid tennis is like little kid soccer. Little kid soccer, only 2 people know where to be, the goalies. Mm-hmm. The other 20, it's a cluster of kids just chasing the ball. Now, little kid hockey is the same. I'm sure little kid basketball is the same.
But then you see those same patterns when they're in the 14s and the 16s.
Oh, yeah.
And the 18s and on and on.
Years ago, we used to say that will not work in the 18s. Years ago, we used to say that's a finished player. They could finish at the net. Mm-hmm. You don't even hear that term anymore. That's one thing about just language and communication.
Right.
Now a finished player is someone from Helsinki. You got to be from Finland. But just to rally, parents are guilty of this. Why are you hitting up the middle? Solve the riddle. Singles or doubles? What's your goal? I'm waiting for them to miss, hit short, or change the direction of the ball.
You reduce the
Ultimately, when you say 70% in junior tennis, I mean, come on, 12 and unders, it's almost like 99%.
Yeah.
Uncle Vic's in this quite a bit. These coffee
I've got
table
that one.
books,
Yeah.
tennis shorts, 1,001. Your horse picked up one of the books. He was looking at the library and he picked up one. It was 101. I thought it was from Mike Costa.
Yeah.
He was hanging out with us. I said, Costa, you want some recognition? Why don't you write a book? And he wrote a very simple book. I understand he's coming out with another one about tennis. Okay, I'll open it up randomly. We in our library, we have tons of books just on quotes. This was one on Pancho. Pancho is a very even-tempered man. He's always mad. That sounds like Braden. Braden said, my job was to walk around and apologize to people who insulted Pancho Gonzalez. A guy had a heart attack in the stands. And so play stopped. Vicky's always told the story. And Pancho Gonzalez is there. Where in the book does it say play stops when someone has a heart attack? Play is continuous. Sure, I'm an old man now. When I was a champion, I was the villain. I had both opponents in the crowd against me. I think I like to change. Now, that happened to Connors. The crowd turned to love Jimmy at the end.
Yeah.
Jimmy said when he had a chance to watch Pancho, I watched Pancho. I didn't see Pancho play live on the main tour. For a long time, he didn't have money. I mean, he turned pro at 19. So you talk about, the best player of all time. Pancho's name's not coming up when you talk about majors.
Yeah.
It's like Laver. I mean, he missed.
But his serve.
He won 4 and 62 as an amateur. Then he won 4 and 69. He didn't play any in between.
You can find his serve on YouTube.
That's when
simple,
efficient. Shout out for Jonathan Yandel. What's the name of his podcast? Or not podcast, website? The Players Net.
Yeah, tennisplayer.net.
Tennisplayer.net. I don't know how, but Pancho always knows where he's going to be on the court, and he hit the other way. There's this Fred Perry, the most ruthless player who ever walked on a tennis court, Bobby Riggs. It's just
ruthless. It's a good word. Unforgiving. Beat their brains out and take them to lunch.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many. Nastasi. I think in Nastasi is that his credit card was stolen. And the police had asked, why didn't you report it? He said, well, whoever stole my credit card is spending less money than my wife. You
have a good mind vitamins in there. What do you got? What's next?
Well, one is that we get through this. We have to talk about autobiographies, but I think Lair is past 17. I thought 17 was the number. I'm going to guess it's 19 now. I have to get our fact checker on that.
Books, you're saying.
Training the tennis parent for competition. Who needs more training? Let's ask young Andy Fitzell. He's not even 50 yet, getting close. Who needs more training, the parent or the player?
The parent. At least at first.
Can't live with him, can't live without him.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I like Lair's old stuff. Lair's a baseball player from Colorado. Played tennis well with, but Lair, he first worked for a great promoter, Dennis Vandermeer. And then from there, he went to work for Nick Bollettieri. So when he was at Bollettieri's, he was around Sampras and Agassi.
Yeah.
But yeah, for our listeners, you can go back to some of our early podcasts where he's one of our pillars, Jim Lair. You hear a sports psychologist today, you're going to hear all sorts of Lairism. He says he's somebody who should definitely be in the Tennis Hall of Fame. With Jim Lair, we've interviewed him as well on our podcast.
Yep. Yeah, it was great when you could listen to episode 60, I believe. Here's one. Parents, too, have to ask themselves if they're ready to begin tennis with their children. Among the questions are, can I let my child get involved without becoming overly protective?
Yeah.
I've seen a little of that sometimes, being overly protective.
Prepare the child for the road or the road for the child.
Right.
No, I understand a lot of parents, say Jim Pierce, Mary Pierce's father. There's positives. I mean, she becomes a great tennis player, but there's so much intensity that, he's not allowed on the grounds.
Yeah.
With the police.
Yeah.
You're in trouble. Brad Gilbert, his first book is Winning Ugly. There's a story behind that because he was just hanging around at the park and talked to these old guys about, hey, Fred, this is how you beat George, and George, this is how you beat Fred. And one of the old guys says, hey, you and I should write a book. And just from that, he was ranked higher than Agassi when Agassi hired him. And he had a famous line. He goes to Agassi, you have so little game and you get, how's it go? You have so much game and you get so little out of it. I have so little game and I get so much out of it.
Yeah.
And his second book, though, is I've Got Your Back. He talks about how he got booted off the tournament site for coaching his kid. Book from Matram. This was a book I've just had forever.
Yeah.
And at one time, I had all my books cataloged and my students could check them out. I had this course called Contemporary Literature and Tennis Instruction. So 16 weeks in a semester, I would make students read 8 books. 4 of them I would sign. And then we also had books that were for certain courses.
Yeah.
So with Vandermeer and Braden, Jim Verdick.
This one's cool because it's got the...
Yeah, like the old Penny Arcade.
Yeah.
It's 104 pages. And people are looking at this, instead of listening to it, you just go like this: 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000.
Yeah. See that?
And you could watch it like, say, a Newcomb overhead or Ivan Gulagong's backhand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's a question for our fact checker. You want to make a comment on that one, though?
No, I remember looking through this, and I can't remember if I have a copy of this or not, but it's a lot of fun. You can find that. Check it out.
Once you see it, you always see it. You have to develop an analytical eye, but you have to look at film. But also, too, is you have to have a base of information. What are you looking for?
Yeah, grip swing body.
What are you looking for? Why does this ball, have true topspin? Well, the racket's going high, low, high, inside out.
Physics.
But no, this is, look at the copyright of these books. So,
the price is on it. Well. $1.65. Best $1.65 I ever spent.
1971.
Yep.
1971. With this book right here, I don't know if it has been anywhere in the tennis world, but Gordon Forbes, this book should become a movie. This is just life on the tour and
give the title and name of that.
Yeah, A Handful of Summers. A Handful of Summers. With today players are stronger, but they are not tougher. Conditions that players went through before. And, granted, the ball is coming a lot faster, almost twice as fast, right? And they're playing on hard court. I thought it was great when Rafa won he won a hard court major. He won the Australian. He said, I would never say this, but now that I've won a major on hard court, to save our bodies, we shouldn't play so much on hard court. A lot of pounding.
Yeah, it's for sure.
Here's a book that is one of the first books written. One of the finest books ever written. Gladys Heldman. She started world tennis. Defunct
Match Play and the Spin of the Ball. Bill Tilden.
Match Play and Spin of the Ball. What beats net? What beats baseline?
Yeah, net.
So if someone's really good from the baseline, Vic Braden, you should just mail him the scores. You have no options.
Yeah.
You can't go in. The kid's better than you from the ground. But it's what beats baseline is net beats baseline. What beats net is topspin. You have to be able to hit topspin on both sides. But we have several books. This is $1.95. Match, play, and spin of the ball, singles, doubles. I didn't bring any over the Bill Talbert books on directionals. There's nothing new under the sun. Certainly.
Yeah.
With years ago, penny on edge, swing 180 degrees, shake hands in the backswing, shake hands in the follow through. Every time we pretty much share some content, we get beat up on old school.
Yeah.
What's your comment on that?
Old school, new school. There is no school. Yeah. No, physics is not a fad. Dimensions of court are the same. So if you want to hit topspin like Roger, you got to do exactly the same things from a physical point of view that he does. There's no secret sauce.
Yeah, Big Bill, Little Bill Johnson. Extreme grips, counterattacker. With
yeah, but like you were saying earlier, with all these different kinds of books, the mental pictures that people create, with their writing style or the verbiage they use, it's just nice. I like the way they said that, and that might help somebody in a lesson if you just say it a little bit different way. They go, geez, why didn't you tell me that 9 months ago or $5,000 ago?
Well, to me, I always, I like the backstory. Today I had a classroom session where people were just asking you, what's your favorite tournament? All these places you've been around the world. I have kids just name pros and name colleges. Then I start telling stories. But the backstory to me is more exciting, more interesting, more meaningful.
Yeah.
And like, well, who's winning? What's the score?
Yeah.
Czech tennis. I have some books that, obviously Braden books, written in Japanese, Chinese.
I think that's in German though,
This
right?
is German.
Yeah.
But I have,
nice.
I have, some books on, some books that are written in Czech with, what comes to your mind if you had to say anything about Lendl? Is this like the old Japanese?
No, I mean, we talked about today, the 8 U.S. Open finals. There was every time I think about that, there's a comedian that used to do McEnroe and Lendl very well, and he would, part of his line, he goes, "Wimbledon, I will do anything to win Wimbledon." But always reminds me of that comedian. Yeah, just to think the work ethic, and as a kid growing up and watching. Obviously, he had the short shorts, but the sawdust in his pockets, for the hands. And that was something I was like, okay, that's different.
In this book, it's a sequence, just like the book we showed you from Matra 1971.
Yeah.
But this is Jose Garris, the Spaniard, 6th in the world, I believe. And he was the voice of the USTA player development for a long time. To see it at the impact point, you really just see it in slow motion. Vic used to show slow motion film. You could have a cup of coffee, watch somebody hit just one ball.
The impact position.
But it's the rising socket versus the rotating socket at a one-handed backhand. With there's a book that I have read. It's The Man Who Made Murray, and it's really a biography on Lendl.
Yeah, I mean Lendl had the Conti grip, right, and he pushed it down on the backhand side.
Yeah, so Lendl and McEnroe, contemporaries. McEnroe had the open racket phase, and he rolled it. So he was looking to get in. But Lendl, same grip, but you turn the wrist down.
Yeah. So either adjust your grip or you adjust your wrist.
Right.
One's going to be a little better for injury prevention, though.
I remember years ago, I actually introduced Tim Gullickson, the late Tim Gullickson, to Jack Kroppel. And Jack and I were both spoon-fed at the same time by Vic Braden. And I was there, and Gully had a continental grip on the backhand side, and Vic didn't tell him to change his grip. He said, just turn your wrist down, turn the wrist down. And That's working within a player's game.
Right.
The expression, the horse has been out of the barn a long time.
Yeah.
But I went to Prague in 1987 to study tennis. People ask me, some of my recollections, is the players were there first. The players were bringing out the equipment. Coaches left, and then the players. Of course, throughout Europe, they do that, where the players stay and sweep the court, and players are putting the equipment away. But you just think about a country with, say, 10 million people. Of course, now it's Slovakia and the Czech Republic.
Yeah.
I remember being at the junior nationals in Prague.
Beautiful city.
With, I've been asked to say, where's tennis taught the best? Years ago, I would have, said, gee, the places I've been. Because I thought there's, less ego in it. I think that generally when there's more ego, more money, more greed, instead of like just help the kids hit the ball better.
Yeah.
And getting people to, it's said about Spanish tennis, unlike the U.S. though, the U.S. is, we're the biggest economy in the world. In years gone by, and even to this day, perhaps, there's some people teaching tennis. If they lose their warm up, just put a stamp on it. You can mail it to them. Their name is all over it.
Yeah.
I know one time I had somebody visiting. They're giving me a hard time because they showed up and I was wearing a sweatshirt from another academy. It's not good marketing. Not good marketing.
Yeah.
Don Budge on tennis.
Nice.
The gentleman. Everybody loved Don Budge, the prince. In this book,
one-handed backhand.
Yeah, Vic Braden almost lost his life. He went to Detroit and rose pretty close to Detroit. He's up in the bleachers,
Climbing up the rafters.
shooting from up above, and wanted to just figure out how, like Laver said about Budge, he goes, who can beat Budge? World War II, he won the majors, all four majors in 1938. No telling what he would have done if it wasn't for World War II. It's very interesting. These old books really emphasize table tennis to learn spin of the ball. Bill Price, we talk about him. It's like in Daniel Cole's book, we started with the talent code, Small Pockets, where he would go to the baseball park. Generally, he was a kid playing shortstop. We talked about that just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Tell the parents, okay, if you get a ping pong table and your kid plays with this grip and this grip, basically an Eastern grip on each side. I tell people all the time at Great Drill, the kids just can't do it. When you play table tennis, let the ball bounce on the table, then bounce on. You see me do that. Bounce on the floor, and then you just play 20 points that way because when the ball's down on the floor, they have to lift up so much.
Yeah.
And
that's a great drill, actually. I mean, you have to have obviously a surface where the ball will bounce, but we played that quite a bit.
When gymnasts convert to tennis, they don't have any ball sense. Say if you're a basketball player, you understand the bounce of the ball.
Yeah.
With
a little bit of trajectory.
If you're really good at billiards, it means you have a misspent youth. Spent a lot of time in the pool, or your parents had a table at your house, but just like passing a hockey puck off the boards, how do people learn all those angles off a billiard table? Is they just play and play and play.
I am pretty good at billiards.
But here's a Don Budge story. Danny Cooper, he was hanging around us for 15 years. Got a little sick of the craziness of the tennis industry. Went back to school, became a lawyer, but still loves tennis. He listens to these podcasts. So Cooper, I was telling him the other day, he's retired now. He's supposed to send me 22.2% of his lifetime earnings, but I haven't seen the check yet.
Come on, Coop.
So he's over in Spain in the wintertime, but he, I don't know, for maybe 5 summers, he was in charge. He was the director of the Don Budge tennis camp. And it's an amazing story. So Danny's teaching the racket up high on the backhand side. And Don Budge, soft-spoken gentleman, prince of a guy, says, Danny, he gets angry. He goes, loses this cool little, he goes, what are you doing? That's not how I hit a backhand. So every Monday night, what they would do is show highlights of Don Budge. And Danny goes, well, Don, we need to go look at the highlight reel. And all these years later, I mean, looked upon as one of the greatest players of all time. And he looks at the film and he goes, son of a gun.
Yeah. Didn't know he didn't know.
I keep the racket up high. Just like it was taken down on YouTube, but Malcolm Gladwell, a Canadian author, did some things with Vic.
Yeah, I've looked for that clip
where he says
over and over and over again.
Pro players have no idea how they hit a ball. Yeah. No idea. Yeah. With, I just threw this in, and there's so many. Alice Barble. I just, all these books that came in, 12 boxes of them. One.
Keep showing it. Let's see. This one's cool.
Wilt Chamberlain. Yeah. I haven't read this one. I mean, we've got Sandy Koufax. We've got the
some good names.
Some leading athletes from other sports. Just like any other 7-foot black millionaire who lives next door, Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain used to tell people that he wanted to fight the former Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali. Mm. And I would think that this was pre-rehearsed, but he was on the Johnny Carson show, the famous talk show of years ago.
Yeah.
And they asked the great one, Muhammad, Wilt Chamberlain wants to fight you. Now keep in mind, he's 7 feet tall. He goes, what do you think if he got in the ring with you? And he just went, Timber. But Chamberlain, he played tennis. He loved tennis. You think of people, the greatest of all time, his name never comes up, but that way he moved,
scored a lot.
Yeah, that's 22 books. There's just so many gems buried within, you can learn from everybody. That's where tennis discussions, but, I've loved this line. You need to have core information first, though.
Yeah.
I ran this academic program. So no, the first year we just listen. Second year, we'll let you ask some questions. There's a great line. Sometimes an open mind needs to be closed for repairs.
Yeah. Then it helps you have a little bit of a BS detector where you could read books and then, get the gems, but then also go, that's not quite correct.
Yes. My mother was pulled out of college during World War II. She worked for the War Department. And I have all these, I'm the youngest of 6 and have some highly educated siblings. But, my mother was the one, you could take a dictionary, and we would do that as kids, is that, you could pick out a word and she was going to know the definition of it. I remember a young kid and supposed to have Latin. They'd come home and I don't have Latin. I tell my mother, oh, it's great. I was told Spanish was easier. They had to have 10 kids to sign up for Latin. Next thing I know, my mother was really easygoing. She starts calling people up and I'm in Latin class.
Yeah.
And then, everybody has their own family stories, but my Uncle Carl just never stopped reading. He had an 8th grade education. But how's it go? Don't let the classroom interfere with your education. Well, let's just do this. It's great to have you in person. It's great to have you be back on the podcast. It was your idea. I remember you telling me when you went to Germany, I go, what about the podcast? So we're supposed to do it every week.
Yeah.
With, give me a number. We'll just do 3 and we'll sign off here.
Number from what to what?
1 to all these podcasts we have.
Oh, okay. Let's go
1 to 227.
Let's go for MJ.
That's 23. Michael.
Come on, of course. Yeah.
Michael Jordan, 23. Russian tennis, part 2. We talked about Russian tennis today. The Russian formula from Daniel Coyle. Number 1, early start. Number 2, driven parents. Number 3, powerful, consistent coaching. Number 4, cultural toughness.
Yeah.
So then we taken that. So okay, let's have an evaluation. As well, if you're an American kid, you're like, well, you get a 0 for number 4. Most tennis kids don't come from cultural toughness.
Yeah.
They don't.
Well, we just talked about there was a young player on the screen, and we were looking at the forehand. It was longer than the Mississippi River on the backswing. And he's like, hey, you know what would happen if you were in Russia? They would just yell at you for that backswing. I don't know if that's still true, but
it's just
I'm sure it happens.
It's just the volume. You know, don't judge the tone. There is no negative. There's no positive. It just is. You know?
Yep.
Feelings have no facts. One of the things in sport,
facts have no feelings.
Facts have
That's right, man. I'm just helping you out.
Help me out. Helping you out. I need help.
Don't we all?
With Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma, I believe they were first. They had a sound system that would duplicate the sound of the stadium during a game.
It's funny.
So sometimes you have to bring it up if you're in other sports. It's like, hey,
you're
300 feet away from me and there's thousands of people watching,
My brain is so wired when you say Oklahoma. The first thing that comes to my head is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, the movie, where they're eating at the table and Steve Martin is playing Rufus. Oklahoma. That he wants to go to Oklahoma. Anyway, you have to see the movie, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Classic.
Okay, movie buff. Give me two more.
All right, two more? Let's go for the big. I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but let's go for 70. Massive number. 70. The big 70. Huh?
Ed Crass. One-on-one doubles. I remember watching Fru McMillan and Bob Hewitt. They both were great players all the way to the age of, 40. We had 3 girls doing that today. I just told them, you're 11, you're 12. I mentioned that earlier. Serve and volley. Come on. You need two things to be a serve and volley. You're a serve and a volley.
Yeah.
If you don't serve and volley, you don't serve and volley.
Live a little.
But Ed Crass, he made it a game. One-on-one doubles.
It's great.
Diagonal doubles, cross-court doubles. It's just amazing, that people don't practice. Come on, you want to go play college tennis? Serve and volley. It's not a crisis. It's a major crisis.
Yeah.
All right, let's go one more. Fitzell, the guy who's got the face for radio, is with us.
How about 111?
111. I see the Henry Park interview, young 15-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm. Saved his life.
With, Roger Federer turns 40, and 40 things about Roger Federer. We got to go one more bonus.
All right. How about number 3?
3. Number 3.
The Holy Triumph.
Number 3 is 25 reasons that Andy Fitzell's wife made a bad decision. Tennis math.
Tennis math. Yeah, that was a great episode.
Tennis math. There's so much math going on. Bill Jacobson. There's more variables in a tennis match than there is in a chess match. I mean, just first of all, what's it called? PlayStation, right? Not PlayStation. Help me out. This is a moment.
Video games?
What's that thing? It looks like an ATM machine. I've never had one, but I've been around.
PlaySite.
PlaySite doesn't give you tennis math.
Yeah.
It's not telling you anything about the grip. It's not telling you anything about the shape of the swing. That's what you need. That's what's really missing in tennis analytics.
Yeah.
Well, you're studying all these, numbers, but I mean, the kid's not getting the racket hit below the ball. I mean, the racket face is open. The hitting zone is so short.
Yeah.
That type of tennis math.
Yeah. And that's where it has been quantified and it's there and it's physics and you got to learn to hit each shot. And there's a quantifiable equation to do it. If you want this amount of speed or this amount of spin, from this height, you got to do these things. It's not magic.
All right, so let's sign this thing off to Fitzell. What are we going to write on the bathroom wall about our tennis library?
It's definitely a collector's item as a body of work.
All sorts of films as well.
Some film.
We have a copy of It should be shown on the Tennis Channel once a week. Vic Braden's Go for a Winner. But it's mixed doubles is a fantastic adventure, but all the information applies to doubles.
Yeah. Today, I mean, it's all relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And I've said it before on this podcast, but I volunteered to show that film for a Saturday and Sunday Boca Raton Tennis Association. I watched it over and over again, and there's just so many pearls of wisdom.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the book should be written. Vic Braden is missed, but Vic Braden was missed.
Yeah. No, so many pearls of wisdom in that. You just got to get past the different clothing style and, not judge the book by its cover and just listen.
But no, I think it's very appropriate to have you visiting here when the last shipment from the library came in. For the longest time, I was telling Yvonne that a friend of mine has a place on the beach, and no one lives there. No one lives in their house. This place on the beach, and I mean, I was probably there for 3 weeks, just working the phone, walking the beach, and we wanted to buy the Vic Braden Library. Mm-hmm. And one time there wasn't even a price, and so talking to this person who knows this person and this person's agent, and it's kind of like with UTR when it was powered by Oracle.
Right.
Really the GreatBase, it'd be nice if it was powered by. And if people really knew the depth of it. And it's not one dimensional. It's not just a Vic Braden study. The course Tennis Intelligence Applied has, that's a book in itself. And we had one student who wrote it word for word.
Yeah.
But 25 hours of tennis instruction. But with that, we're just keep working to try to improve tennis teaching. It needs help, and we right now are being invaded by pickleball. And I'm saying all the time is that people need to learn the same ready position for pickleball, and they need to use the same large body parts. And
so still the kinetic chain is there.
But when kids years ago would play wiffle ball, they would play baseball. I mean, there was a softball that slowed it down, but then all of a sudden there was a plastic ball. But wiffle ball and baseball, Jack Sock calls it wiffle. Yeah, I was playing wiffle. Mm-hmm. Is the batter had a stance.
Yeah.
The batter was trying to emulate what they were doing in the pros.
Right.
And, that's the mystery of tennis too, is that, everybody has their own style, quote unquote, but at the impact point, pros are over 90% the same.
Yeah, I mean, again, from physics, if you're going to do a certain amount of speed or spin, if you want to hit it like Roger, you got to do the same things. He didn't have a secret sauce.
There is no secret sauce. Anyway, we need to do some things with our library. We have a network of people that want to help out as well. I know that Yvonne said that Ed Weiss's book is going to be up. I mean, we've been working on it. We promised that. You don't want to overpromise and underdeliver.
Yeah.
But this is how effective the Welby Van Horn balance approach is, and how fast you can teach it.
Yeah.
And, can you just, first of all, shadow swing? Can you just show us proper mechanics for the serve or forehand? Can you do a solo drill where you just drop hit a ball? Can you hit a ball? Today we had some old people out. We're just trying to help the transition here at Wintergreen and membership appreciation. And the members were tossing the balls into the young juniors they're practicing with. No, you just take the ball and you just drop it straight down.
Yeah.
And, then you get one of the teaching aids, a plastic dot. No, just drop it straight down.
Yeah.
and they can hit. But people, they don't know basics, and then they don't know how to practice. And, like so many things happen. This girl from South Africa comes in, and, hats off to Petrus and Shaw who've taught her. But stories behind stories. I know Yvonne just works around the clock to help people out with our tennis project. Through my phone, I get so much positive feedback. So there's an Indian family here. The girl's been here like 3 times, and it's like, okay, and usually people have to be here 3 times, parents as well.
Mm.
They have to, you didn't get it the first time. No, you didn't get it the second time. And, especially if they haven't looked at all the content that we share. But one of their friends who lives right in the same city. She's top 10 in the country now. And the father who has the daughter who's top 10 in the country said, no, she doesn't need to go to clinics. Get her to go kick a soccer ball, get her, and she's doing all that anyway, dance and basketball. She needs strokes.
Yeah.
Most people would get strokes just by hitting against a wall. You're better off, my opinion is, you're better off today in the US of A just going to hit against the backboard and taking a tennis lesson. Because, the ball's going to go against the wall, it has to come straight back. It just, people can certainly, we always say the backboard would be the worst way to practice. Because, the teenage boys taking that 2-ounce ball and they're trying to knock the wall over, but eventually fatigue sets in. And what did Braden say about the club players? They would buy the clothes and wear them to the grocery store.
Yeah, exactly.
But now pickleball, you can buy the clothes and you can play.
Yeah.
That's where Newsweek magazine, racquetball, would take an hour and a half to transfer athletic skills. Tennis, a year and a half. Anyway, value. Did we give any value out? You're our coach. You're our founder. Did we give any value out today?
I sure hope so. Your nuggets from some of these books.
Okay.
Good to be back. Good to see my sign back there. Looking good.
I like that sign. Let's give us the Rafa Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And from a movie, tell us one thing about a movie and we're out of here. Then you say, Smith, shut up. That's how we're ending these things now.
Well, I told you the other day, I don't know why it came to my mind, but from the Robert Redford movie, I said, go pick me out a winner, Bobby. The Savoy Special. One of my favorite movies. You know what I'm talking about?
It's a baseball movie. Hobbs.
Roy Hobbs. Come on, Hobbs. Yeah, The Natural.
Robert Redford. All right, Fitzell, wave by the camera. Say, Smith, shut up.
Smith, sei leise.
And we're out of here. But thanks for listening. Yvonne, thanks for putting this together. And we hope people found some benefit. Education
Adios.
from the GreatBase Podcast. Adios, amigos.
Adios, amigos. Nos vemos. Hasta la próxima.